Hello, everybody. It is Wednesday, January 25th, 2023, and you are watching the Wrestling Republic's daily broadcast. I'm your host, Ben Allison, and today we are joined once again by Clark Taylor. How are you, Clark?
I'm doing well. Glad to be back. We got Dynamite on tap tonight. Tons of great topics. It's been an easy morning so far. I'm excited to get going. Get the afternoon started here on the West Coast.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It's 9 p.m. at night in the UK currently. It's crazy every day when we do this. It's like late morning, early afternoon for Clark, and it's basically bedtime for me. And it's hilarious, the time difference, but at the same time, it's very interesting. But today, talking about the world and different time zones and all of that, the big topic that's going around online today is a possible Wrestling World Cup. For those of you guys who don't know about this Wrestling World Cup, which has been thrown around the last few days, New Japan Pro Wrestling star Kazuchika Okada called for a Wrestling World Cup last week. And he did an interview, and in it he said this: "We had an all-star event before, but last year we had the World Cup in football, and this year we have the WBC and the World Cup in rugby. It would be interesting to have a pro wrestling matches between different countries and have Japan represent Japan. The World Cup in soccer was interesting, and I think the WBC will be stimulating. I think that kind of thing is being held overseas, but I don't think there are any big competitions in wrestling. I think it would be fun to do something on a global scale. Maybe Okada and Nakamura will come out as a tag team. I don't know if it'll work. I thought it'd be interesting to do with various groups." He was then asked if he would talk to Tony Khan and Triple H to see if try and push this, and he said, "That's right. I will go see AEW President Tony Khan and WWE's Triple H if necessary." Even at the Tokyo Dome at this time, there were AEW players, Kenny Omega and all them, and WWE players, Carl Anderson and Mercedes Moné. The current, well, actually, I don't know why he mentioned Moné, considering she's no longer with the company, but he mentioned her nevertheless. But he then went on to say, "The current New Japan is already worldwide, isn't it? There are players from various countries, so I want to do something interesting. Somehow, when I was talking about it now, I really want to do it." And one thing I want to quickly mention is, in Japan, they call wrestlers players a lot of the time. So that's why, that's basically, it's a translation thing. So if you want to, why I kept saying players. But yeah, we talked about this on last week's show, and we said that basically, yeah, he can want it all he wants, but it wouldn't make sense for any major promotion, as of course every major promotion will want their wrestlers to win. So perhaps for perhaps for the companies which aren't New Japan, AEW, and WWE, it would make sense. But for those three companies, it's unlikely you'd be able to get them working together. However, like I said, Okada said he was going to talk to Triple H and Tony Khan. And today, Tony Khan has responded. And he said this: "Well, I've got experience with working with different promotions and promoting different angles and matches and storylines across different companies, and it can be challenging, but we came together with New Japan Pro Wrestling and put on, I think, the best pay-per-view last year, Forbidden Door. And there are challenges of putting on an event like that and getting the matches set, but it certainly is something that I would be open to do. I'm open to working with anyone in pro wrestling, so you never know." And I'm going to go on the record here right now, me. I think a Wrestling World Cup would not work. In fact, I think it is a terrible idea. Yes, it's fun to, speculate and dream about, but why would AEW, WWE, or New Japan want one of their top stars to lose? Okay, maybe AEW and New Japan will be able to work something out, but getting WWE involved, no way. AEW wouldn't even be able to, do a deal with Impact because they just wanted to put all their own stars over. I cannot see a Wrestling World Cup happening, and if it does happen, I think it's going to end in disaster, chaos, and a lot of drama. I think it might be the CM Punk situation all over again, but between different promotions. I really, really would. Of course, I'd love to see it, but I think it's an awful idea. And in fact, to be honest, I don't actually want to see it because I just would rather each company focus on themselves. I think if anything, we'll do another Forbidden Door with New Japan and AEW. Maybe do them, 1 year in the US, the next year in Japan. I think that would be something very fun to do. But in terms of doing, a worldwide thing with different promotions, it's not something which personally I have any interest in seeing. I mean, Melissa in the comments saying, hey, hello, welcome to the show today. And now I'm going to pass it to you, Clark. What would you think about a possible Wrestling World Cup?
So you covered a lot there on it is fantasy wise, it's a blast, right? Of course we would, get the wheels start spinning and you're thinking of different teams and scenarios. But all three companies, I think, is a big ask. I don't see that as a possibility. Just to flip things on the positive side, hypothetically, the only thing I could think of that may work is if you were going to do some sort of cross promotional pay-per-view, and with the Rumble coming up, maybe like a tournament. I don't think that would work at all, because to your point, then certain people from certain companies have to lose all the way up. But maybe a Royal Rumble with all three companies, or a Battle Royal, I guess, Rumble style, and call that the World Cup on a cross-promoted pay-per-view. I think that's the only way it could be reasonable, because yes, at the end of the day, one person goes over, but you aren't necessarily burying the rest of the talent that is in the Battle Royal. Now, there's really nothing quite like the Royal Rumble and the spectacle of that, and it'd be kind of a straight ripoff. So that kind of, to me, rules that out. But at the same time, that was the only thing I could really think of that may actually work out of this is, and you have to, the problem is, we see almost two different kinds of battle royals. You see the Royal Rumble, and it's the pageantry and the countdown clock and the pops throughout, and it's treated like the main event. Then you see the show opening battle royal where the ring's already full and nobody gets entrance music, and there's a lot of quick eliminations, and then all of a sudden whoever is gonna win it ends up winning it, and they get a trophy or whatever it is, and there's that. If you were going to call it a World Cup, you'd obviously have to treat it as something bigger, and I don't know how you would, with all three companies involved, I don't know how you'd navigate those waters. Like, does it mean that whoever wins the trophy gets a challenge for a title in one of the other promotions or something, or what do you win? Is it the last three in the Rumble get medals, and that's why we call it the World Cup? Almost make it more like the Olympics in that sense. I don't know. It seems like a great fantasy idea, but just a reach in general is the problem, I think. For me, it's really fun to think about. Like, even when you mentioned obviously teaming with Shinsuke, that's a great. That'd be a blast, right? And you start thinking in your head, like, who could represent the UK and Mexico and Canada and the United States, and how they would do that. Maybe even like weight classes, more like an MMA style thing. But even then, there's just so much behind the scenes work from a booking perspective that I just don't see it as a true possibility.
Yeah, the only way in which I could see it possibly working is if it's a multi-year thing, where they agree to do one tournament per year or every other year for 3 times. New Japan win once, AEW win once, and WWE win once, and WWE only sends some of their mid-card talent. There's no main eventers. I think that's the only way in which I could see it possibly happening, and even still, I don't know if I can see it, but it would have to be something like that for any of it to make sense at all, in my personal opinion. But if you were Triple H, would you even consider it?
I would, because of, I think, what it would do to the news cycle. I would consider it. I think that in and of itself is worth it. And then Triple H maintaining his reputation, I think, as an upgrade creatively from Vince McMahon, as a more free thinking type of booker and whatnot. I think maintaining that reputation, at least acknowledging the idea, not to steal Roman Reigns' acknowledge, but like, at least showing some interest, whether they execute it or not, is probably worth it. And I mean, yeah, it's always worth a listen, right? The worst thing that happens is you say no. So, and we don't know exactly what the pitch is, right? We could, project like what the thought process is on who would win and how you would decide. booking wise and where you would venues. And I mean, if it's going to be a tournament with multiple companies, you're talking about like global, you have to have multiple events globally, right? It's not like, unless you're going to get all of the talent from the biggest rosters in professional wrestling to show up to one city for like a week and wrestle every day, which, but I don't see that either, because what are you just going to then, it's like, you're just going to stop the touring schedule for everybody to go to whatever the city is?
A few stars from each promotion, to be honest. And like I said, I think if WWE were to be involved, I think the likes of Shinsuke Nakamura would be the only stars which would go over. I mean, maybe now, people who are starting to age a little, like AJ Styles, who's no longer in the main event scene, maybe somebody like him could go. But no way would a Seth Rollins, Roman Reigns, even Drew McIntyre. I can't. Or maybe I think Drew would be the absolute top, like the biggest star that they'd possibly send, and even him, can't really see.
I think Finn would. Be a good one.
Perhaps, yeah.
Balor would be a really good one.
Yeah, but I think WWE would only do that if AEW New Japan sent their top stars.
Yeah.
And then I feel like Tony Khan at that point would be like, yeah, no, if they're not sending their top stars, then I'm not going to send mine. And I think it's going to just get into, it's just going to cause drama, like I previously stated. Although, now that I think about it, like I stated a minute ago, if they were to do it, agree 3 tournaments and agree 1 year New Japan will win, 1 year WWE will win, and 1 year AEW will win. For WWE's ego, you probably have to let them win the first tournament, and understandably so. They're the biggest tournament, the biggest company of the 3. But I do think it's possible, but it won't be Roman Reigns versus Kenny Omega versus Kazuchika Okada. I can't see that happening at all. The likes of Roman Reigns, no way would be there, because WWE will not have any of their top talent lose. If they sent over a Shinsuke Nakamura, they'd expect him to get at the very least to the semifinals, if not the final. So yeah, it'd be a difficult one, but it would be cool if it was to work out and was to be done well. But hypothetically, right, if you were booking it, Clark, I'm throwing you off here now. This is
no, you're good. I'm ready.
But what would you book as the final if New Japan, AEW, and WWE were involved? This is hypothetically now, so ignore the limitations or whatever. If you could pick one singles match to do, who would you say?
So I know the question is singles match, but I also just thought of what I would actually do anyway. And I would host a tournament inside of each company and have a triple threat.
Oh.
And if that was me, right this second, I mean, if Roman Reigns is on the table, give me Roman. if we're picking, right? If he's on the table, I'll take Roman. If not, I'll take Brock or Lashley. And then I'd probably get to Seth Rollins or Cody right after that. There's my top 5 choices to make it through the WWE bracket, but if I get one, it's Reigns.
Yeah.
On the AEW side, for the sake of this match, I'd love to say MJF. For the sake of the match, not MJF. I actually want, as kind of like a half underdog, but also like I think Moxley actually would be the fun one to have in that one. And then you add on top of that probably Okada, I would say.
Yeah. It's got to be Okada.
I think the 3 of them physicality wise fits better than Max in that match, or even I thought briefly for a second Omega. I think with the size difference between, you almost have like small, medium, and like, you know what I mean? Not small, but you have like medium, huge. Like the physicality, I think Moxley fits that match better. And then you can tell the story about him versus Reigns. Maybe you make the semifinal on the WWE bracket, Reigns and Rollins. You make the semi, right? So it's which Shield member, and then Moxley. Maybe if you're booking it to create more interest for that match, you could have Moxley already get through the AEW bracket, so you know he's in. Then it's which ex-Shield member is going to have the encounter with their former stablemate. I think that's a fun story to tell. And then you add Okada to the mix, and I really like that. That would be, I think, the way I would do it if I could. If I had to go singles, I would say Moxley versus Reigns or Moxley versus Rollins is that's the one we all want to see, is not Dean Ambrose versus them, but John Moxley, because even as Dean Ambrose, they were amazing, but I want to see like Mox versus, and I'm not even, don't get me wrong, big Mox fan, but you know, I rooted for Hangman against him. Right. Like love Hangman Page, and I think he would be amazing bell to bell in a scenario like that. I would love to see Hangman and Okada. I think that'd be a really fun match. Go lariat versus lariat, at a Forbidden Door style event. That's something I would enjoy because you have the Rainmaker and then you got the Buckshot, and they're both just level you type clotheslines essentially.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But I still think, let's go ahead.
The one that I personally would go for is actually Reigns versus Okada, because I feel like those, like Okada, nobody's been built in New Japan over the last few years, as well, decade now nearly, as Okada, and the same with Reigns. Whereas AEW don't really have that star which they built up for them. But they've only been around for a few years, but they've still not had that one star who's been dominant throughout, keeps winning the world title. Whereas you have Reigns and Okada, have followed very similar career paths in a way.
Right.
Two monsters, and that to me would be see who's the best in the world in terms of kayfabe. That really would get me excited by that. I mean, but I do like your idea too. I mean, of course, a possible Shield type thing that would be.
Well, and even if, fun. To your point about they don't have that one guy that's been the constant, but at the end of the day, Moxley has held the title the most times.
That is true. Very true.
So if we are going triple threat, then he would probably, I think, deserve the nod off resume. By comparison to the other two, right? Not quite the same level of dominance, but also ironically, like as much as Okada's a babyface, I don't know who gets cheered in that match. And that's where I think you'd almost have a split crowd in a cool way, but if you add Mox to the mix, I think the Moxley Reigns contingent would almost like be chanting at each other, and then the Okada cheers would build as the match went on by the nature of him staying in it. That's what would be so much fun about the triple threat match to me, I think.
I think that
it depends on where you do it.
I think if it was in the States, I think anywhere in the States, I don't think Okada, if Moxley was involved, I think Moxley would take basically Okada's fan base. I think it'd be bad.
But I think stylistically in the US in a triple threat scenario like that, over the course of the match, Okada could win over the fans. In Japan, he's going to get cheered, no question.
Oh,
right?
Yeah.
But I think over the course of the match, that's where, you have Moxley there almost to make sure that Reigns doesn't get babyface treatment.
Yeah.
Right? To almost split it. I think that environment with the three guys would be outstanding. Almost no matter where you did it.
Yeah, no, completely. And it is an interesting thing to theorize, like we stated earlier on, but will it happen? Probably not. But if it was to happen, it would be WWE mid-card guys, and it'd have a multi-year thing where each company would win at once. But let's stop talking about the Forbidden Door now, and let's get into this week's AEW Dynamite preview. Of course, AEW Dynamite on tonight, and it's looking like quite an interesting show. We have Jungle Boy and Huck teaming up once again, and this time they're facing the firm's Ethan Page and Matt Hardy. And I'd actually completely forgotten Matt Hardy was in the firm. In fact, I completely forgot about his existence because we've not seen him too much recently. But he is still in the firm after, of course, losing that match a few months back, I think in October. But honestly, I expect a bit more from Matt Hardy in AEW. I still am hoping that we see a bit more from him. Of course, the Jeff Hardy thing you can't control, obviously. That changed plans significantly. But this match, I think it's obvious. Jungle Hook are just going to walk through and win. But what do you think, Clark?
I'm a huge Jungle Boy and Hook fan, so I don't mind the booking. I think it'll be a fun match. I agree with you that Jungle Hook will get the win, but I actually think the firm will dominate the early action in this one, and I think it'll be the classic fighting from underneath scenario with Jungle Hook, because I know the pop when they make the big comeback or whoever gets the hot tag in that one is probably worth it. I don't think it's going to be a full-blown squash. While I do think the result's predictable. Right. And hopefully Page and Hardy are able to kind of do enough damage to maybe flip me in the middle of the match and start to think, oh, maybe they are going over. But we'll see.
One thing I will ask you is, do you think they're building up Jungle Hook for a possible tag team championship match?
I honestly, I kind of hope not. I don't think we need another babyface tag team to be opposite the Acclaimed. I don't know if there can be a more babyface tag team than the Acclaimed, as over as Hook and Jungle Boy are. I really don't think that this is the time to build them for a tag run. I like the pairing a little bit like I liked Hookhausen. Like I've liked a few of the things they've done with Hook. I think it's cool. It's a clever name. It's fun for a short run, but for a legit one in the tag division, I don't think so.
Yeah, that is a good point there. Yeah, I mean, perhaps if the Acclaim weren't champions, you could see that happening. But yeah, for the time being, it's it'd just be two babyface tag teams against each other. I don't know if the crowd would even know who to cheer for. But that'd be fascinating. Who would they cheer for? I wouldn't like to bet on that at all because I'm probably going to see the Acclaimed slightly more. But then again, Jungle Boy and Huck are the two most over singles competitors in terms of
yeah,
in the company. So I don't know about that one. But talking about over babyface competitors in AEW, tonight Darby Allin will be defending his TNT Championship in an open challenge against Buddy Matthews, and I'm excited for this. I'm a big fan of both of these guys, especially Buddy Matthews, and I feel like this style. I feel like the style clash between them both will be very good tonight, and I feel like we're going to see some brutal knees from Buddy Matthews and all that. So I'm excited. Of course, Darby's going to retain, but it should be a fun match. What do you think, Clark?
You know, I'm really, really excited about this one. I think for a while there at the beginning of the TNT title, it became not the workhorse title, but it became the bell-to-bell title at first, right? You know, we think about the dog collar match with Cody and Brody. We think about Cody and his open challenge run, the match with Eddie Kingston, him and Darby, him and, you know, and then I think it kind of in the middle there we lost a little bit of luster off of it with, not that Scorpio Sky did a bad job, but I just, you know, there weren't many big classics in there. I think Miro did a good job of holding that belt. He had an unbelievable opener at that 2020 All Out against Eddie. But then even I love Wardlow, but I you know, him and Joe, it was fine. I like to see the belt back on Darby because I think we're going to see really, really, really good in-ring action in all of his defenses and exciting. And Buddy Matthews is such an intriguing matchup with him because we're so used to Darby fighting way bigger dudes, wrestling way bigger dudes than him. Not that Buddy's small by any means. Buddy is he's a fire hydrant. He's huge, but agility wise, he can match Darby bell to bell. And so I think the pace is going to be off the charts in this one. And I don't want to say instant classic, but this could be one of those undercover, like, did you guys see that one? If they give them the time, because both these guys can go for sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, it is a bit of a stacked card tonight. We have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 matches. I mean, who knows? Actually, we've got a couple of segments too, but who knows? Maybe we'll get some time, and I really hope it does, because that would be a banger of a match. Now, next up, we have Toni Storm versus Ruby Soho versus Dr. Britt Baker, and this one is actually should be quite a interesting match. In fact, I'm looking forward to it. I feel like the three might have decent chemistry together. I mean, we've seen, you know, them in singles action against each other before, but as a triple threat, I feel like this could be another underrated match and probably one of the better women's matches recently on Dynamite. But what are your thoughts, Clark?
Is this technically a number one contenders match? Feels like it should be. Sure. Yeah, it really feels like it should be. And
check this.
Yeah, I feel like it really should be. And if it is, I really think it's time to pull the trigger on Dr. Britt Baker winning this and break her and Hater up. They can both stand on their own now. I think that's the move. You leave both Storm and Soho, unfortunately, on the outside looking in. But with Toni's new turn, I think she needs to do some more heel work before we give her another world title opportunity. Soho, Ruby, I think, is ready, but Hater's a babyface too. And I'd be afraid that Jamie would get cheered against Ruby. I think DMD can handle the other side of the Hater situation and lean into her quality heel work that we've seen in the past.
We actually have a bit of news, which I made a mistake on because I've only just realized it came out a couple of hours ago. That Britt Baker's been pulled from this match, so it's now a singles match between Toni Storm and Ruby Soho.
Well, that
but
changes things.
It's not a number one contenders match, to my knowledge, though.
Okay. So, any reason on why she was pulled?
An injury.
That's brutal. Well, that's out the window. So if it's Storm or Soho, then I think at this point, and it's not number one contenders, I think it's going to be a quality match for sure. Both Toni and Ruby are awesome talents, and the Ruby Soho match on Rampage with her team of Willow Nightingale when they wore the Dudley gear, that one was really, really, really exciting in the arena for sure. I don't know who goes over in this one. I think maybe you give Ruby the win if it's not a number one contenders match, but if it's gonna be the winner of this is the clear cut next challenger for the title, then maybe you go Toni just to keep it babyface heel in the title picture.
Yeah. And of course, we all know the history as well between Toni Storm and Jamie Hayter. So running that back from a different dynamic would be quite interesting indeed. Now, the next match is a segment. So it's not a match. It's the next. The next on the list is a segment, and it is the Acclaimed and the Guns go to family therapy. And this is going to be entertaining. That's all I can really say on it. It's going to be a fun segment. And I mean, are the Guns going to turn face again? I mean, I doubt it.
I mean, honestly, if this isn't comedy gold, I don't know what will be. Like, it's a perfect setup for a great segment, and maybe they are going to turn face. I don't know. Is interesting, like they've, as much as they are kind of heels, the Ass Boys thing is so over and it's such comedy based. It doesn't seem that they're that far away from being cheered, right? Like, people are now more excited to see the Guns than they were before, for sure. And Danhausen deserves a lot of credit for that, as much as the Acclaim do. I don't know if they're for sure turning face, but they might tease it tonight. And I think it'll be funny no matter what. That's the main thing for me, is it'll be comedy.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've not minded the Guns as heels, to be honest. So I hope they don't turn yet, because I don't know. I don't think they're going to get over as faces off the bat, but maybe it's set up a tag title match between the two. Who knows? But the next match on the card is one which we're all very, happy to see happening, because, of course, the Briscoes originally weren't allowed on AEW TV, and Mark Briscoe reportedly wasn't allowed on the show last week, which is, quite frustrating. But tonight he will get to honor Jay Briscoe, as Mark Briscoe will take on Jay Lethal. And this is going to be an emotional match. It will be, but they're going to do Jay proud, and I'm super, super excited about it. What do you think, Clark?
I am so happy to hear that they got this worked out, and it's awesome. A credit to AEW and Warner Turner for doing the right thing. It's absolutely was the right thing to do, and Mark should have been on the show last week, but you know what? There's some more positivity here. Today would have been Jay's 39th birthday, and it's kind of serendipitous that he has this match on television like this to honor his brother on what would have been his birthday. And I think there's something special about that. And we've had time for everything to sink in. It was only one day after that would have happened, basically, right? 24 hours later.
I think it would have been 40. It was
48
or 72.
Yeah. This would have been, or this is now going to be the full, not that the tribute that they did for Honor Club and everything that was taped last week isn't great. This is the real tribute that Jay deserved and Mark deserves to be a part of. I hope that part of me hopes that they send this match out first. I hope that they open the show with this one, and that they get as much time as put on a classic. It'll be highly emotional. Obviously, everybody wants Mark Briscoe to win. I think it's pretty obvious Mark Briscoe will win. But I really hope this is given the time to just be a classic Briscoe style physical marathon of a wrestling match. And sending them out first would be great. If it's the main event, that's very cool too. I just worry about running out of time. So either way, but main point, super glad that this got figured out, and good on everybody involved for getting things sorted and allowing this tribute to happen. And I think long ago this is something that should have been done for the Briscoes, but not just because of the tragedy, but it even before then I would have said the same thing, but it is, I think they did the right thing. And to have Jay Lethal on the other side of the ring is what better competitor to put on an absolute banger of a match, right?
Yeah, absolutely.
What more could you ask for?
And I'll say this as well. I think that tonight Mark Briscoe is going to lay the tag titles down. I think they're going to retire this version of the Ring of Honor tag team titles and then crown a new winner. But yeah, I think he's going to retire the titles tonight because he has been promoted as the one half of the ROH tag team champions. But yeah, I think that those belts will be retired tonight after the match. But yeah, it's definitely the right move. And like you said, it would have been Jay's 39th birthday today. So it is good that they've, left it a week to, let things settle in and then done this today to really tribute him. And I do hope as well that it is the main event match. But the next match on the card is Chris Jericho and Sammy Guevara versus Ricky Starks and Action Andretti. And if you told me a few weeks ago that Action Andretti would be, one of the top stars, and not top stars in the company, that's a bit of an exaggeration, but a proper star going against Chris Jericho and giving him a proper match, I would have laughed at you. But I have a feeling this match tonight is going to be really, really fun, and I'm looking forward to it. I mean, like I said, there's quite a few matches on the card which I feel the same way about, which is a little concerning about how much time each of them will get. But yeah, this match I think is going to be super fun, but I really hope the Starks and Andretti win it, but I do think that Jericho and Sammy Guevara will take the win. But what do you think, Clark?
It's funny. I love the story of it. Jericho kind of found Action Andretti,
Oh yeah.
Did you read that? And I actually went back and watched I believe it was Dark Elevation match that he saw him on from the original article about Jericho talking about from Talk is Jericho. And I totally get it. He's awesome. How did we miss this dude?
Oh, he's great.
For so long, he's sublime in the ring. And teaming with Ricky Starks, who's, not literally Captain Charisma. We know that's Christian, but basically, as of right now, who's more charismatic than Starks? Not many.
Nobody.
And I think the pairing is fun. I kind of agree with you on, unfortunately, I think the Jericho Appreciation Society is going to go over in this one. But still very excited about the match. And I like that pairing. Tag titles run, not right now with the Acclaimed thing. But yeah, the tag division is tough because there's really not a true heel tag team, I think, to challenge the Acclaimed at the moment. And there's a lot of babyface teams that are very over, I mean, it would be like an awesome time, I think, for like a Santana and Ortiz to come back as heels if they could work that out, or Proud and Powerful, or even like just there's not that true heel to stand on the other side of the Acclaim like you'd want,
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, part of me thinks that the Guns, I think this is hugely controversial, but part of me thinks that maybe giving the Guns a short title reign, having them beat the Acclaimed and have the story come full circle, and then having the Guns lose to, maybe Jungle Hawk or Starks Andretti, I feel like that would be an interesting thing to do. But I know a lot of people would not like that, but I don't know. I feel bad for the Guns at times because I feel like, they do decently and they've really leaned into all of these gimmicks, despite the fact that sometimes they've been, embarrassed because of the stuff they've been given, because that's been their gimmick. So I wouldn't be against that if I'm being totally honest. But what do you think about the Guns possibly having a short run with the tag titles, Clark?
I don't mind them having the shot at the tag titles. I really don't think they're ready yet to win them and carry them. And I think it might in the way where as much as like I thought Scorpio Sky was awesome and deserved his TNT title run, it felt like it a little bit devalued the title for a short period. And I'm afraid that the Guns doing that to the tag belts would do the same thing.
Yeah.
That would be my only fear. I agree with you though. I don't have a huge issue with it because, I mean, to your point, they've done a great job with what they've been given. And they are definitely entertaining kids. They don't come across as unentertaining, no matter what they basically are stuck doing. And yeah, I don't necessarily think they're quite ready, but I don't know. There's not much depth as far as heel tag teams right now, and they might be the most logical choice.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I do agree with you there that there's just not much choices there. There are not many heel tag teams in that division at the minute. So AEW are in, a difficult situation. But honestly, I guess just keep the titles in the Acclaim for the time being, because they're still over. You still make more money off them. So there's no point cutting it short, because everybody knows AEW stands for Acclaimed every Wednesday. But moving on to what maybe is the main event of the evening today, it's certainly probably the most promoted match, and that is Bryan Danielson will be facing his next competitor on the road to challenging MJF at Revolution next month. And the next competitor he is facing tonight is Brian Cage. And boy, oh boy, do I think that this match could be a lot better than I think some people are expecting. I've been a Brian Cage fan for a very long time now. And yes, his AEW run hasn't been that great so far, but I believe that Bryan Danielson is going to really bring it out of him. And I feel like styles mix matches, and I feel like this style combo could be really, really good. So I think that this Dynamite card just full of fun matches, which could be hidden gems. It's really interesting, but again, it's 6 matches, 2 hours, a segment, backstage promos. Undoubtedly, it's they're not all going to get time, but hopefully this one does, as this could be a hidden gem. But what do you think, Clark?
I'm super excited about it. I think it's pretty obvious Bryan Danielson's going to win because we're getting Danielson MJF. But yeah, Brian Cage is so good. And to look at his AEW arc, right? Like he comes in, he wins the chip, main events against Moxley for the title. Then he's like in Team Taz for a bit. And then he's like, then he has the Tully thing briefly. I don't know, changes his haircut and stuff. But he's always putting on good matches. He's never in a really, really bad match. He just hasn't been pushed heavily. It's interesting. I almost feel like he and Lance Archer are on like the same need a big guy contract.
Yeah.
Okay, we need a big guy this week, boys. Who we calling, Archer or Cage? But every time they get plugged in, it's great, right? Archer in the Texas Death Match, Cage in numerous spots on the card. I think it was interesting. I feel like we never quite got the Cage and Will Hobbs payoff that we deserved, even though they did briefly tussle. It just wasn't like, I don't know, the definitive ending. I don't know if that's a factor with how much Will Hobbs has been talked about lately. And this match somehow, maybe Cage does take Danielson to the brink and almost scare us into Danielson not facing MJF, and then maybe Hobbs ruins it for Cage. I don't know. I don't know where you go with it, but I do think Danielson Cage is a no-brainer banger. It's going to be an amazing match. I feel like both guys are so smart in the ring, bell to bell, that it's one of those things where I'm more curious to see how they get us sucked in and where if the two of them can get us to believe that Cage is going to win this match. That is going to be that's the thing I'm most curious about, is can they get us to, for a second, go, wait a minute, Brian Cage is going to do this. He's going to ruin this. Yeah. And if they can pull that off, even if they can't, I know it'll be an amazing match. Yeah. But if they can pull that off, then I'll be blown away, because this is such a stacked card. And I think that's going to be the easiest way for this one. I know how well advertised it was, but that's going to be the easiest way for this one to stand out in relation to the rest.
Yeah, and I want to go back to a point which you briefly mentioned about AEW's booking of big guys, because I know it's a joke, but it's like they've really booked them badly. Like Lance Archer, Brian Cage,
Miro,
even Hobbs at times. Miro, he's another one. They've all done great in AEW. Their matches have been great. I don't understand really what the issue is, like, at all, why they've not been booked better. It just feels like this is not something which Tony Khan's interested in. I know obviously WWE prefer the bigger guys, but like, come on, quite a few should have been. Even Wardlow. Wardlow's been honestly, like, he was built brilliantly and then ruined.
Brody was booked strong though. By the way, that would be my only counterpoint, but that's not even an argument thing, because to your point too, even Keith Lee.
Yeah.
Keith Lee hasn't been
long term, we don't know what would happen with Brody either. Like a lot of people come in when they first debuted and been shown well, and then over time, like it's quite an infuriating thing. It really is. Like there's not. Yeah.
Interestingly, though, Ben, by the way, the only other one I'd put on the other side is they've booked Luchasaurus strong. They really have, but he's so much more agile. He's not even a traditional big man. He is by size, but not by style. And that's the interesting thing to me is I wonder if that's kind of the deal is it's just a preference thing is the bell-to-bell agility and the ability to work a fast-paced match because of the way they squeeze so much into these cards. Yeah. As opposed to a more plodding, methodical, true big man style. I wonder if that's as big of a factor as anything, because it is interesting. It's not that they don't put them in important spots, right? Archer had multiple main event matches against Hangman. Cage has had multiple title matches, right?
But there's no story. He's not had a storyline really.
But he hasn't had a storyline. That's what I find so fascinating. It's weird. It's like, because it's not quite as simple as they've been buried. They've been in huge matches. They've all been in huge matches, but they don't have these huge storylines and long-term, and they're not wrestling every single week.
There's no long-term vision at all for them.
They're coming in as a monster heel for almost a one-off, even though we know they're on the roster. That's the most fascinating part to me, Ben, I think is right. It's not as simple as like they're getting buried, because it's not like they're getting squashed, right? Like Hobbs isn't getting beat badly. Neither is even if Cage does lose, it's like Darby stealing the match, not stealing, but you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Catching him by surprise. And like, it's funny because I totally agree. Like, I don't understand the big man part of it, but I am fascinated by it because it's just not quite as simple as like, they're burying them. It's just like, it seems like it's so stop start with every single one.
Yeah, no, that's a brilliant point that you made. And I don't know what it is, but clearly Tony Khan, like you said, maybe he does prefer agility. But then again, Brian Cage he's got fantastic agility, but who knows?
Even Brody King was a fill-in. We didn't even mention him. Brody King.
Oh, yeah, that's...
And he got a couple main events and then back to the background. It's so weird. Yeah. Sorry.
No, it is weird. The one thing which I wanted to quickly touch upon before we finish up the show is that the BT Sport Instagram have posted, which is, of course, WWE's... TV deal in the UK, and it's outside of the US, it's their biggest TV deal really. Have posted top 5 Royal Rumble predictions, and one of them is that Jay White. They posted a picture of Jay White saying that Jay White, the American's going to be in it. Now, of course, it's not an official WWE account, but it's their big TV deal, and WWE often share stuff from that. So, I mean. Of course, BT were the ones who were doing it with Cody before WrestleMania last year too, but that is something which it's a little bit interesting. Could Jay White be showing up at the Royal Rumble? I'd love it to happen, but of course he's got that match. Loser leaves Japan in February in New Japan, so I think it would be after that. But otherwise, it's just too obvious who will win that match. But even still, I'm really pumped for him in WWE if that is indeed happening, because I've always said that he would fit WWE perfectly, much better than he fits Japan, because at times he's had some backlash in Japan for the style he works. But he would fit WWE so well and could become a top star there for the next decade, because he's still got age on his side too. And of course, Clark, I imagine that you're up for seeing a Jay White in WWE.
All over it. And I think we've talked about a little before, like I think I said last time, Raw after Mania, either or. Doesn't matter to me. And it's funny because a year ago, Forbidden Door time, if you just said WWE over AEW, come on.
No.
But now, yeah. And it's going to be great, I think, no matter where it is that he debuts. But I do think if I'm making a prediction, not necessarily in the Rumble, but we'll see Jay White in WWE in 2023.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Yeah, it's just whether or not maybe they do something with him at WrestleMania. Is he big enough to do something with him at WrestleMania? Regardless, I think he's 100% big enough for them to debut on Raw after Mania. I think enough people, especially in that crowd, they'll know who he is, and that would be such him in WWE. I'm hyped for it. But that is the end of today's daily broadcast, everybody. Thank you for tuning in. Please leave us a like on YouTube if you were watching, and share this video around, because we are here every day. I think this is our 30th. I think this is our 30th episode, actually.
I think it actually is.
And it's been an absolute blast this last month, guys. And we're keeping it going. We can't wait to see you guys tomorrow. I won't be on the show tomorrow, but Clark will be. And for a time update, make sure to follow the Instagram account and where we post on a story each day at what time each other podcast is. But thank you, everybody, for watching. And we all hope you have a good evening, rest of your day, whatever it is, whatever time, wherever you are. See you guys tomorrow.
Have a good one.